Good morning, good morning. It is Thursday. Time for some yin. May 11th. Celebrating my 11 months anniversary of no smoking. So let's have a party. Let's do some lungs. We're going to start by coming into wide-kneed child's pose. So there's a couple extra mats in the back if you need an extra mat. I have a couple extra scarves. But you want to come, take your knees as wide as they go. And let's just face that way. That way we can use the long edge of our mat. And fold the ends of your mat in, and then you have a double padding underneath your knees. You take your knees wide, and then you stretch forward, and you're going to thread your right arm underneath your left arm and bring your shoulder onto the floor. Wrap your left arm around you like you're giving yourself a backwards hug. Other left arm. Yeah. And take a full inhale and just sigh out your exhale. And it's okay if you're switching up your arms and going the opposite way, because we're definitely going to do the other side as well. OMG. So take a full inhale, and with your exhale, just sigh it out. Notice how with your breath already your body responds to you. In yin yoga, you want to relax as many muscles as you can in every posture. And you can put a scarf or something under your head if it's uncomfortable on the floor. And as you relax your muscles, you're going to try and gently breathe with your nose. But if you have a stuffed up nose or if you need to breathe with your mouth, breathing is better than being obedient. So the first principle in yin yoga is to relax your muscles into the shape of the pose that suits your body. So you only take your knees as far as what makes sense for your hips. We're very conditioned to know that our fingerprints are different, that our irises are different, but even our bones are different and unique. And then especially how they meet. How, for instance, your femur fits into your hip socket and where your hip socket is. So you find the right shape for you. And then this relaxation, it really is on purpose, to be still on purpose, inactive on purpose. And then the third element is the willingness to stay. For a lot of these poses, we stay longer than the 3 minutes, so that the more yin tissues of our body will be able to have time to respond. You might even notice that moment in a pose where it's as if your ligaments, the stuff that holds your bones together, releases just a little bit more. So keeping your legs like this, just lift up your upper body and thread your left arm for everyone except for Grace, underneath, yeah, underneath your right arm, bringing your other ear to the ground, coming to the other side of the twist. And in all of our practices together, you want to imagine what I'm saying are suggestions, not, I'm not trying to train a dog. So it's not about just obedience, but it's like, maybe this will work for you, or maybe this path will allow something to come alive in you. But it's like a nice dress. It could look nice on the hanger, but when you try it on, it feels just weird. You want to try on these ideas and postures and concepts. Take a couple moments in this side of the posture just to feel your physical body. Feel the energy that animates you. So you can call it prana, you can call it chi. You can call it Bobby or Sue. In Latin it's called anime. But you have to discover what that is in you. Notice your emotions this morning. Without trying to change them or justify them or make up a story, just notice what they are. And then come unwinding out of the pose and slide your knees together and take your arms back behind you so you're in like an embryo pose or a seed pose. It's like child's pose, but very small. And just take a moment here and notice how your thinking has been this morning. Again, more the manner in which you're thinking instead of the justifications and the stories and the nuances of what you're thinking. And then make your way, rise up with your chest, turn around, and make your way into Sphinx. So you're going to stretch, your legs back out. Bring your elbows just slightly in front of your shoulders. Pull them in so that the bones can hold you up and you don't actually have to use a lot of muscles. You can let your shoulders fall up into your ears, or you can pull your shoulder blades down your spine. And you might find, Magdalena, that sliding your elbows just a little bit more forward is just a little bit more passive. And if it's too much for your back, you can also slide down even more so that your ribs touch, and you can just have your, yeah. Also engaging your thigh muscles. If the intensity in your back gets too strong, engaging your thigh muscles for a moment will release it a little bit, and then you can relax back into the pose. So take a moment this morning. We always have slightly different questions about how to check in with our spirit self. So we've checked in with our physical body, with our energetic body, our emotional body, and our thinking body. In our spirit body today, explore the question of why am I here? But that's like the epic question. but even just recognizing a sliver of maybe this is a small piece of my task. Where am I with this task? Am I remembering it? Or am I still searching for it? Am I in practice around it? And even if you don't come up with a very clear, yes, I'm going to cure cancer, save the world. Or if it's not so dramatic, it could be very simple even. So even if you don't come up with a clear, crystal answer, the question itself already invites more awareness. This ultimate question of purpose here on earth in this precious life always has a steering capacity. And it can function as other things as well. It can give you energy. It can give you insight. Not only into your own challenges, but also into other people's challenges. And it can also act a little bit like a hologram. So you have this like big epic thing maybe, or maybe it's a small big epic thing. But like with a hologram, if you smash the hologram, all the little pieces have an image of the whole in it. So even if your purpose sounds epic, can you find it in the small interactions with your family, with your loved ones, with your co-workers, with the earth? And then gently lower yourself down to the ground. Wiggle your butt side to side. Notice the movement releases the sensations. movement in our body can also help emotional sensations move through us more quickly. Stretch your arm out to the right, your right arm, that is. Or, yeah, you can just take the opposite of what I say, if that's your nature. And then take your gaze in the opposite direction of your hand and hug your knees up to your chest, lying on the outside of your left thigh. Without lowering your arm, you still want your arm going straight out from your shoulder blade. Now, take your top leg, the left leg, and step your foot behind your right leg, so your foot's on the ground. And then reach up with your left arm and turn your palm and reach down and see if you can hold hands behind your shoulders without significantly lowering your arm. So there's no like, oh, I'm sorry, you're going to have to leave the yin class if you can't hold hands behind you. That doesn't really help. Maybe is that a little better? Yep. So maybe let go of your hands and see if you can bring your right arm further back up here. And so either even reaching is enough, or yes, skillfully using your clothes as a strap and sneaking in a little bit of yang into our yin practice is totally okay. It's probably because you're cutting off your circulation there. There we go. You may even find that you're open enough this morning to place both of your feet on the ground. And maybe you're bendy enough that you can actually allow both of your hips to come to the ground. But take a big inhale, and with your exhale, sigh out. Feeling your lungs. Your lungs in traditional Chinese medicine are referred to as the tender organ. I'll be right back with this. A little better? Mm-hmm. And the tenderness of your lungs refers to how sensitive they are, how sensitive we are to our environment, how with our lungs we get the first dose of energy from our environment, of qi, and how with food and water there's a quite relatively long time we can go without food and water, but we can't go without breath. The lungs are so intimately tied to life on earth. And then roll onto your belly and joyfully moan and groan a little bit, because that will help the sensations move. Wiggle your fingers, make sure your fingers still work on that side. Maybe not, you okay? Yeah. And then, other side. It's gonna be amazing. So just let yourself try that imagination out. It's gonna be awesome. Stretch your left arm out to the left, palm facing down to start with. Hug your knees up to your chest. Bring your top foot onto the ground. It's your right one. And then reach back behind you and see if you can hold hands. And again, the reach itself is part of the posture. You don't have to get there to get a good experience of the posture. You're so close, Gracie. I mean, Grace. What's your middle name? Maya. Maya? Grace Maya. You can maybe bring your foot more like here. Is that nicer? So in yin, sometimes the challenge isn't trying harder. The challenge is actually backing off a little bit. So if you can imagine that yoga is medicine and that our practice wants to bring us into balance, we're going to continually be asked or confronted with what's hard for us. So a lot of us have been conditioned to always try harder, go a little faster, do a little bit more. So we're very experienced with effort being connected to a yang experience, to a very masculine kind of framed experience. But with a yin experience, it balances out our yang energy. It balances out this constant drive. So the yin practice is a little bit confronting with those elements. Can you be more gentle? Like, can you be more kind? And you'll discover that it's not just a submissive, passive response, but it's really it's like how we come into the pose with the act of stillness. We need to will ourselves, a will that isn't about force, but a will that's about allowing. Maybe even you can imagine it, like the picture of it isn't like a will, like a sword blade pointing forward and slicing through, but a will that really is more radiating out from a center, like a pulse. And I hope it's hard to imagine, because this is part of where we are, is at this meeting where we're still not quite aware or able to label a lot of what is in the yin sphere, or a lot of what's in the feminine sphere. And release back to center, moan and groan. Noticing that with your tender organ, your lungs, you make sounds. You can wiggle around a little bit. Just let the ground hold you for a moment. So in traditional Chinese medicine, every yin organ is coupled together with a more yang organ. And the lungs are coupled together with the large intestines. Vad heter det på svenska? Ding ding, and the points go to Magda. All right. Come up into Sphinx or Seal. So again, our Western entertainment-seeking challenge is, how can we come back into the same posture we just did and find it interesting? So it might be seal, it might be seal, it might be Sphinx. So a seal, it's more intense on the back, on the lower back. And with Sphinx, it's still intense. So squeeze your elbows in so they're shoulder distance apart. And practice being at your edge, but instead of trying to surpass your edge, play with it, and when it becomes too intense, listen to your body and come into Sphinx. So each one of us shows up on our mat and we have different challenges. For some people, the yang practice where it gets sweaty and warm and hot is the hardest thing to do. For other people, that's where they feel comfortable and safe, and then doing a passive, cool practice. I can see you smiling, Emmanuel. Is where it's like, oh, this is so hard, I hate it. With the lungs, we have the clear, this connection to the immediate breath and energy that comes from it. And in that vein, it really celebrates the elements of ephemeral, the immediate and passing experience of the world. So the momentary, the impermanence, the ephemeral, the changing, mercurial nature of our world. So emotionally, how the lung qualities are expressed in us when we're in balance is we're courageous and reverent. And able to connect with poignancy and the present moment. When our lung qi and large intestine qi is out of balance, our emotional imbalance is expressed as grief, and not just grief associated with loss, but grief that stays and lingers, that doesn't move in your body. So, out of balance. In traditional Chinese medicine, they're so good about repeatedly expressing that all emotions are inherently neither good or bad. But it's when we can't let go of an emotion that it becomes corrosive and destructive in us. So our lung capacity is so intimately tied to life on earth. Not just for ourselves, but for every living creature. But when we get attached to the loss of life, for instance, then it throws our system out of balance. So we want to have reverence for it, but not attachment. For it being life, love, stuff, all of it. And gently lower yourself down onto the mat and wiggle your butt side to side, or even bend your knees and just wave your legs side to side. Bring your hands underneath your shoulders and just shift back, coming into child's pose, Balasana. With our breath, we create sound. We can sing and we can speak. We also notice that with our words and with our breath, we are able to move experiences through us. We also find that we have a creative power in our words. So not only do we have the capacity to allow things to be literally digested, integrated, and let go of with our skill with language, but we also have this incredible capacity to call into being. Now lift up so that your hips are over your knees. And you're going to come up into Anahata Asana, which is basically downward facing dog on your knees. Or you can think of it, yeah. So your hips stay over your knees and you stretch your arms out, bring your forehead onto the ground. If that's too intense, you can, for your head, you can always bend one of your arms and use your forearm as a pillow. I love this posture in so many ways. It's really, you feel your chest opening up and bowing to the earth. But it's Anahata Asana, which translates to the heart pose. And I love it because our butt is gloriously sticking in the air. It's a totally awkward pose. But often we need that awkwardness to really be able to step into love. So this creativity that's possible here on earth, with physical repercussions, often starts with the logos, this creative capacity that is carried on our breath in the form of words. In our experience, we can often see how powerful our logos can be, especially between us and another human being. As we move into the future, again and again we're confronted with what happens when this creative power is dismissed in our words, in our communication, in our relations. You can experience it with so many things where when words are stripped of their meaning or power, it takes something away from the world's merely. That actually between human beings especially is where the word is creating a future, shaping it. And this capacity is something that is sacred. And really the responsibility of human beings. You can let your hips sink down to your heels. Take your arms back behind you again. And then inhale up. And this time we're going to spin to face to our right, to face this, take our legs long on the mat this way. I'm going to stretch your legs out in dragonfly. And we're doing lateral dragon, not fly. So you might find if the backs of your knees are sensitive, you can put some socks or rolled up some things underneath your knees or even your hands sometimes, but not in this posture. And then you're going to take your left elbow, we'll start on the other side just for fun. And you're going to slide your left elbow, I'll be your mirror. You're going to slide it down your thigh if that's possible for you. You might find that your thigh is a little too far away, that's fine too. And then you're going to reach your right arm over your ear and see if you can maybe hold on to your foot. And it's like maybe not, is the other half of maybe, right? Maybe yes, maybe no. You might discover that your hand is really handy and you can bend your left elbow and hold your head. You might find out that actually your arm's too short and that's just really annoying, and it's not fair that some people can hold their head and you can't. Which is, this is the beautiful, wonderful challenge of multiplicity, and how fair is just really a silly, silly thing. Because it's not about sameness. But in this moment, when we look at one thing, it seems unreasonable that it's not. So you might even find your arm can really kind of relax over your head. You can feel a lovely stretching sensation in between your intercostal muscles and your ribs, letting your right hip be heavy. In traditional Chinese medicine, together with our organs, and the picture of soul is present. And there is in our liver, the liver houses our non-corporeal soul, which is our non-physical soul. The part of us that maybe in other traditions we'd call that spirit. but the part of us that continues to stay with us as our physical body dies, and comes with us again as we reincarnate into another physical body, if that happens. But in our lungs, we house the corporeal soul, which is often also referred to as our animal soul, or our po. And we can kind of feel that this soul is related more closely to our instincts, and in some ways to our personality. So in our getting to know ourselves and working and serving in the world, we'll notice that some of our instincts and inclinations are gifts and save our life. And others can distract our lives and cloud our path. Just with our personality, we find the same thing, that in some places in our biography, our personality actually is part of what opens a door for us. And other times, it's what stands in the way between us and our work. Inhale, roll up. You'll be happy to hear we're not staying there for 10 minutes. Take your hands either side of your left leg, I believe it is, and you're going to put your weight into the floor and lift up your butt. You might even lift it all up. And get a little Charlie horse. And then just twist a little bit. And joyfully slide your right elbow along your right leg. Maybe lucky enough to hold your head and stay in the pose. And then reach over and see if you can find your toes. Maybe yes, maybe no. So if we think about the nature, like the difference in nature of our lungs and how they work in our body, and our liver and how our liver works in our body, and how our lungs are connected to this animal, this immediate moment. And our liver is really connected to like the long goals, like the long picture. Like even with liver disease, it usually doesn't show up for years after liver abuse, you can see when someone's liver is unhealthy, the color of the whites of their eyes change, so their eyes are affected, and even their capacity to see color is affected. And so literally the sight is affected in someone whose liver has been abused. This ability to have a goal and move towards it. But how we meet the present moment, how we meet each surprise, how we receive each gift, whether it's wrapped all pretty and nice and shiny paper or wrapped in a bundle of fertilizer. Changes how we can use these gifts and use everything that comes into our life as part of our long-range purpose, our bigger, more epic task here on Earth. So when we talk about the kidneys, we often talk about this yang will, where we have to use force and discipline and push it through, versus this yin will of really recognizing where our unconscious or superconscious has a different guidance system in us. Where in our yin will, we often only see it when we look back on our lives. But to truly find our kind of uprightness and our, it's like our own golden ratio of balance or something, where we come and we light up, is to really allow our self-reflection and knowledge to come together and help our yin will, recognizing our yin will, to actually guide our yang will so they're not divided, so that we can actually meet and change our karma. In the same way, this non-corporeal soul and this corporeal soul, when we do our inner work and when we practice being ourselves in our awakeness, we can bring the efforts to be directed at the same goal. So not every shiny, pretty thing distracts us, for instance. We can still go for that big, radiant thing. Inhale, lift up. Lift up your bum, 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 bum. Or lift it all up and twist around. And then stretch your legs straight forward. Maybe having to sit on something or just rolling up the back of your mat. Do you want me to get the other mat for you? I didn't bring it to you last time, sorry. But elevating your hips allows for more length in your hamstrings. Stretch your legs out in front of you. And we're going to move into caterpillar pose. Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. It's very different than the inchworm pose. So caterpillar pose is a forward bend. So you stretch your legs straight out. See that you're off the fleshy part of your bum. Good luck. No, I'm just kidding. And then curl down. Oh, yeah. See that personality? It just gets in your way sometimes. But you kind of wiggle and find the spot, and then you think about, melting your spine down. Sometimes some of the imagination is you want to imagine your skin melting off your bones. It sounds kind of dramatic, but in your body you can kind of feel this like, oh. So in kind of esoteric picture of the human body, every organ is connected to, as traditional Chinese medicine says, emotions and mental capacities and the spirit kind of soul challenge and work. But it also is connected to a planet that often can describe these same kind of things as well. And our lungs are connected to Mercury. And Mercury, if you know the metal itself, it's that silver metal that gels together and breaks apart, and it runs around as if it had, a tail and could wag its tail and run around with little legs, but it's got none. It moves, it doesn't stay still. Mercury is the kind of the symbol of the messenger, and is connected to medicine. And Mercury, the planet, went direct just a little over a week ago. It was retrograde for 3.5 weeks. And we can experience the planet in our bodies and biographies. It's very easy for us to know this truth when we talk about the sun, especially when we live here in Sweden. We know the sun affects not only how our bodies receive vitamin D, and how essential vitamin D is actually in preventing cancer, despite all the misunderstandings about it. And we also know, especially if we've worked in any sort of social work, how the moon affects us. Or as a woman, how we echo the rhythm of the moon in our bodies. It'd be kind of silly to think that those are the only planets that affect us, because there's a bunch of other planets out there. And Mercury is one that I've experienced that you can actually feel. And you can notice it in your speech, and fumbling with words and communication becomes more challenging. But we can also notice it that when Mercury changes and goes from retrograde to direct, or from direct to retrograde, travel plans get screwed up more easily, communications get more challenged, and machines break. I tell you these things not to be right, but for you to notice if actually you can feel Mercury in yourself as well. But where those challenges are highlights some of the things that also are related to the lung psycho-emotional and like the ruling of the lung forces. With your next inhale, roll up. And we're going to come reclining onto our back. And we're going to do just a short little yang twist. You can braid your right thigh over your left thigh. Maybe your toes wrap around your calf. Put your left foot on the ground and slide your butts, just have one each, to your right, and then drop your knees to the left. So your hips go right, your knees go left. Take a full inhale with your exhale, just sigh out. Ah. As we move into ending our class, let's have some wise words from Rumi. This being human is a guest house. Every morning a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all. Come back to center and change your legs. It is a little yang twist. So you can just let both of your knees drop to the right or have twisted root legs. Got it. Welcome and entertain them all. Even if they are a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture, still treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. Take another full inhale. With your exhale, sigh it out and come back to center. Stretch your legs out and move into Shavasana. Take your legs a little bit wider than usual, perhaps in the yin style. You can take your arms out as if you're about to make a snow angel. You never know, it might snow again tomorrow. Let gravity hold you. If your lower back hurts, you can always have your knees bent. Take your feet as wide as the mat and let your knees fall together. With your next inhale, invite your breath to the edges of your body. Wiggle your fingers and your toes and maybe your face and your nose. And then find your way onto your left-hand side this morning, hugging your knees to your chest. The left hand stimulates the more yang side of your spine, energetic nadi. And then help yourself up into a comfortable seated position. And let's close together by sounding one Om. Bring your hands to heart center. Feel the ground below you. Lift up tall. Empty your breath. Take a deep inhale. Bring your prayer hands to your third eye. Invite the divine light. And as we bow forward together, we say, Namaste. And to celebrate being alive and awake while we work, make some noise. Woo! Good morning, good morning. So go out there and be awesome. That's what I got. And we got 2 more weeks of yoga before there's a long summer break because I am going to the USA. Ja, men jag vet inte precis om jag vill ha den rummet här eller en annan. Men jag vill gärna fortsätta, ja precis, i höst.